Pull over now." Those were the first words that cut through the humid afternoon air in downtown Atlanta. The officer's voice sliced through the silence like a sharp command, authoritative, impatient, accustomed to instant obedience. The Georgia heat made the asphalt shimmer, and the smell of exhaust mixed with distant car horns. But to understand this story better, let me start from the beginning. It was late afternoon in Atlanta. The sun was slowly setting behind the skyscrapers, painting the main street in golden tones. Among the cars heading home from work, a woman drove her old Honda Civic, calm, respecting every traffic light. Her name was Sarah Washington. No one at that moment could imagine what was about to happen. Just a few blocks from the interstate, a police checkpoint interrupted traffic. 4 officers, sweating under their bulletproof vests, were conducting random stops. One of them, Officer Reynolds, looked at the old Honda and, without apparent reason, raised his hand. "Pull over now." Sarah pulled over calmly, turned off the engine, and kept her hands visible on the steering wheel, just as she'd been taught. "Good afternoon, officer. Is there a problem?" Reynolds looked her up and down, suspicious. "License and registration?" "Of course." She handed them over with steady hands. The officer flipped through the documents without really reading them. "Where are you coming from?" "From work, sir." "Work?" He smirked. "Where do you work?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Downtown, at the courthouse." "Oh, I see. The courthouse. In a hurry, weren't you? You know you were speeding." She frowned. "Officer, with all respect, I was going the speed limit. I wasn't speeding." His smile turned into provocation. "You calling me a liar?" 2 other officers approached. One of them whispered, "Let me handle this. These people only learn when we get tough." Sarah remained calm. Officer Reynolds yanked her car keys from her hand and tossed them on the ground. "Learn some respect. You want to pay a fine or you want real trouble?" Her silence irritated him. "Answer me," he shouted, but Sarah kept her gaze steady. She didn't cry, didn't shout, didn't argue. "All right then, you'll learn at the station." She was taken forcibly, without resistance. The car remained there with a cracked windshield. At the station, an old air conditioner hummed loudly, barely cooling the room. Officer Reynolds threw her documents on the desk. Full name. Silence. "You deaf?" Name. Sarah remained quiet. "Put down resisting arrest, obstruction, and false identification." The desk sergeant hesitated. "But Reynolds, without evidence." "Evidence?" He laughed. "We make the evidence here." Sarah observed everything. Her calm demeanor contrasted with the growing anger in their voices. "Want to call someone?" he taunted. "Go ahead. Call someone. You'll need it." 20 minutes passed until the sound of a large car stopping outside interrupted their laughter. A black SUV with tinted windows. From it stepped a man in a gray suit with a serious expression. He entered the station firmly. "Good evening. I'm the federal prosecutor on duty. Who's in charge here?" Officer Reynolds straightened up. "That's me, sir." "And what's the reason for this woman's arrest?" "Resisting arrest and false identification. She showed fake ID." "No, but then you're detaining someone without evidence." His voice cut through the air. The prosecutor turned to the woman sitting down. "Ma'am, what is your name?" She stood up slowly, looked him in the eyes, and responded, "Judge Sarah Washington, Federal District Court for the Northern District of Georgia." The silence that followed seemed to swallow all the air. Officer Reynolds went pale. The desk sergeant dropped his pen. "Repeat that," the prosecutor asked. Sarah opened her purse and showed her federal credentials. "I was heading to an emergency hearing and was stopped without cause." The prosecutor took a deep breath. All of you are under arrest for civil rights violations under federal law. Officer Reynolds tried to react. But, sir, it was a mistake. Mistake? Sarah said. A mistake is making a typo. What you did is called racial profiling and abuse of power. Internal Affairs agents entered the room seconds later. The atmosphere changed. The laughter disappeared. Cell phones started buzzing. News spread quickly. Federal judge racially profiled in traffic stop. Hours later, with the officers detained, Sarah gave a brief interview. Camera lights reflected on her tired but firm face. She said simply, "I didn't use my position to protect myself. I waited to see how far they would go, and they went far enough to show the size of the problem." The next day, headlines covered every news site. Federal judge experiences racial profiling firsthand, exposes police misconduct. Body camera footage from Internal Affairs showed everything. No word was edited, no gesture hidden. The evidence was undeniable. Officer Reynolds and the other 3 officers were immediately suspended pending federal investigation. But more importantly, something changed in the city. For weeks, every officer setting up a checkpoint remembered that case. And on the streets, ordinary citizens felt a little safer, not because injustice ended, but because someone had the courage to face it without shouting, without fighting, just with dignity and truth. At the end of that week, Sarah drove her Honda again. The wind hit her face gently, almost symbolic. She stopped at the same spot where everything happened, looked at the asphalt, and smiled. "You know," she murmured, "sometimes justice takes time, but it comes. And when it comes, it doesn't ask permission." She accelerated and disappeared among the cars. If you believe that respect can still transform our country, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were in her place?